It's obvious that you listen to this show to hear about and support other people's dreams. But what about yours? What is your dream project? I'm here to help you break through whatever is in the way of your dreams and get you to the finish line. Go to dreamingbigcoaching.com today and take the first step. Literally, it's a button you can click to sign up for a free consultation with me. Let's find out if I can help you reach your goal. Click on Take the First Step. It's that simple to start the rest of your life. Get coached by Rob Southgate at dreamingbigcoaching.com. Look, we're all nerds here. Todd Stashwick's Nerd Circus is a great place to pick up nerdy paraphernalia and groovy wares. How about some sweet lava lamp dice? Or maybe a funky 70s Rec Room Nerd Circus dice box? Does that do anything for you? Need a drink? What about the book Mystic Libations? Critical cocktails for the thirsty adventurer. Look, Todd Stashwick's Nerd Circus is the place for nerdy threads, cool tabletop gifts, and more. Go to thenerdcircus.com and check out the cool stuff. Oh yeah, and let them know the TTRPG Insider sent you. Welcome again to the TTRPG Insider. I am your host, Rob Southgate. The TTRPG Insider is a podcast about tabletop role-playing games. More specifically, about the amazing people that create these games. Every episode, I interview someone who's involved in the behind-the-scenes of tabletop role-playing games. I want to hear their stories. Stories about their lives, about their experience in gaming and their interests. Not just a description of the game. You can follow TTRPG Insider on Facebook by searching for TTRPG Insider. I've also added a Twitter account. It's easy. Look for @TTRPG Insider. I'll be adding other social media, but for now, those are the best places to find me. And if you want to email me, let's say you've got a game you want to promote, you have somebody you want on as an interview, or you've got a crowdfunding effort about to kick in, you can send me an email directly to rob@ttrpginsider.com. The month of March, we are featuring the Black Ballad by the Storytellers Forge. They have a backer kit campaign that launched on March 7th and is going to run for 30 days. Please support this crowdfunding effort, both financially and by sharing it across your social media. You never know who's going to see this and fall in love with this game. Go to BackerKit and search for the Black Ballad, or simply click on the link that I have in the show notes. Today's guest is Michael Oldziej. He's a writer, teacher, magician, and all-around fascinating person. I can't wait for you to meet him. Here's Michael. Michael, welcome to the show. This is so exciting.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man, we've had a bit of a pre-show here, which was so much fun. We had to stop. A hard stop in order to record because we've got so much to talk about.
We're kind of going off. Yeah. Let's focus in, right?
So this whole month for our show, I know it's a new show, but what we're going to try and do is theme these shows around certain projects. This month is the Black Ballad. And Michael, you're a writer on the Black Ballad, correct?
Yeah. I absolutely am. I write some of the stuff. There's going to be a bunch of gods mentioned, and I'm a writer on a bunch of those guys. So like get to come up with like the theme of the god and how they like interact in this afterlife place and how their worshipers are. And you kind of get to be really creative by working with other people in that regard.
So why don't we start here? Why don't we hear about you? Give me your background, how you got into this. I mean, that's what people really want to hear. I mean, you're a writer on a tabletop RPG. This is a big thing. The writer is,
it's
vital.
Wild to be here. To be
yeah.
honest, right?
So how did we get here?
Like,
What's your history?
So yeah, I got into Dungeons and Dragons. I was like 12 years old because I was like a lot of kids. I was not the most well liked at school. It was a little weird, right? And I found this game that got a lot of people into things. So eventually it was like, what are we going to do? And we're like, I don't know. I'll run the game, I think. So we had no clue what we were doing. We decided to play the game without reading the book. I remember someone was like, School of Magic. And we're like, well, Hogwarts is a magic school. Let's write down Hogwarts for that. We read the book and we're like, oh, we should probably read this before we actually play the game. So I spent time really studying the book. And eventually I ran a game for a couple of my friends. It was D&D 3.5. I remember that. And then as time went on, I started like finding more gaming topics, like Star Wars and like Warhammer and things like that. And eventually, I ended up at a gaming store. And what got me really into it was a bunch of my friends were LARPers. And I remember he came in one day with a bird mask on and like a green cloak and was like, "You three get in the car." And I'm like, "What is happening?" And they say, "We'll tell you when we get back." I'm like, "Well, I want to hear now." And they go, "We can't, we gotta go." They come back and I'm like, they come back on Monday. I'm like, "So where were you?" And they're like, "Well, we do this thing called LARPing." And I go, "Well, can I do that?" And they're like, "Yeah." So I go, "Cool." So I go to my first event and I had an absolute ball, right? And eventually I started going to a LARP every weekend. And when I was in college at this, I was 15 at this time. And I think at that point I'd been to like 70, 80 games, just going because I was like, I love this. And eventually started writing because I wanted to run my own. And in college, I was like, I was staffing a couple LARPs. So I wanted to be the head GM. And I wrote it for a bunch of college kids and I let it be free and anyone could come. And then we had a whole bunch of people, not from the college, who started signing on because they were like, we really enjoy the storyline. And we're in a 3-year campaign. And I just remember the people, one player wrote a book, literally a book of every little document he had as his character and put the narrative up. And that just touched my heart. There's a thing about running games. You see Ready Player One, the movie, even though it wasn't that great.
Yeah, read the book too. The book was better.
Book was so good. But there was one line in the on that note where they go backwards. That someone had tried that within like 3 hours. Like, I wonder if I gun it backwards. Oh, look, it works. Like that would not have lasted 10 years. Someone would 3 hours max. That works out.
It seemed like when they started solving stuff, it was so fast. It's like, oh, you finally have somebody that understands gaming and breaking things.
Yeah, but like
it took forever to get to that point.
Know where the start button was and was like, oh, I think I'm in reverse. Hey guys, I solved the riddle.
Right.
Minimum 3 hours. There's a line at the end of that where Halliday, the character, they ask, "Are you real?" And he says, "Thank you. Thank you for playing my game." And I remember I'm in the theater and I'm bawling tears and people are next to me like, "What's wrong with you?" Right. And there's something about running games for people where it's that connection you have. And someone says, "I really had a good time." And for me, that was like the thing that would touch my heart about games. I would write pre-written games. I wrote a game called A Sheets of Fae. It was 400 pages long, and everyone got 20-page character sheets telling about their character. I remember people leaving and saying, "I had a great time." And I'm like, that's why I do this, right there, because it's the feeling of making someone else have a better day through the game. And it's a weird. Those of you who GM, you kind of know, right? And so it's a strong feeling that kind of resonates in your heart, right? So eventually, while doing this, I became a professional magician, surprisingly, right? I work a lot of Renaissance fairs and stuff like that. And that was also the same thing of this technical thing that I really, really enjoy. I guess being on the autism spectrum, right? Because a lot of us happen to be, right? It's a very common trait among that to like want to do certain things. And
especially things like that. Like a friend of ours, it's Rubik's Cube. It's like just nonstop. They like that.
Those guys are wild.
But they like that mechanical. They like it. Like Magic has that same kind of vibe to it. I totally get that. That's why you also get a lot of gamers.
I mean, 100%, right? And Magic for me has also been one of those hobbies that you kind of learn and you grow at. And I remember I was working at a Renaissance fair and while LARPing, right? Because I got into Magic professionally through LARPing because I was, they knew I was a magician. I was okay. I was very well practiced because I was
budding magician. Right.
Yeah. So, and as I was doing Magic, I got a call from my friend and she goes, "Hey, we have space open at a Renaissance fair. Can you do Magic there?" And I go, "Yeah, I can. I would love to go like perform." They go, "Okay, we'll pay you." And I go, "You'll pay me?"
Mind blown.
Pay me money to be. And I'm like, it was not a lot, but it was enough to make me go like, I don't care how much it was. It got me going to different fairs, and that also combined with these kind of became my two loves is Magic and writing games. So when I was in college, I studied history. Originally, I was a game design major. Then I realized I didn't want to be a game design major. When I was like, I saw the state of the video game industry and the price gouging and stuff like that. And I was not the biggest fan there, but I always loved games. And I had a professor that also loved games at Freshman Education. So I became a history teacher and focused in education, absolutely, right? And my professor also focused in games, and he was like, you can use games for education. I go, no, but that makes sense to me. I remember LARPing and just having these vivid memories of events that happened. I can tell you like every little plot that happened. You were telling me before the show, just like a D&D campaign, right?
Well, I'll tell you something else. You keep mentioning LARPing. My whole family LARPs. My daughter got hired to be a princess. They actually had her. She was 12 when she did it first, maybe even younger than that, which that never happens. You never have a kid cast in one of these things. And they had her play the princess in this, which was great. It took a dark turn by the end of the first chapter. So you're there for, 3 days, never out of character. You can't leave it. By the end of it, you realize she is the most powerful evil character in it because she's been possessed, and she does a force choke on somebody that brings them to their knees, almost kills them, and they all like, oh, but what does everybody do? They rush to the princess. It's like, no, you saw what happened, right?
No, she's the threat.
Yeah.
Get away from the princess.
They didn't get it. Anyway, they hired her, and then we went, wait a minute, she's like 12. What are we going to do? I think we need to be, no, she might have been 10 at that first one. I can't remember. But we're like, there's got to be an adult here. Of course, people running it were like they were great. They were absolutely wonderful. It was Moonrise Games, just absolutely fantastic. And it was called Chronicles of the Realm was what we were in. And they said, okay, my wife says, well, you used to be an actor. You go do it. You could just be like a guardian. And they said, well, you got to have a character. You got to be around her. So
you got to be like the guards. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we start writing a character for me so that I can be around the princess. And all of a sudden my character became really important. And they're like, uh-oh, you can't be around the princess every minute. So my wife had to come in, and my wife's like, I don't want to do it. I'll just be a mute character. We ended up doing 4 chapters with this thing. My wife was so popular as this mute character. And by the end of it, they did a thing like they voted on a new king or new ruler of Amalur, and she got nominated and got votes.
That's so
she did not win. And it was amazing. And I was like this big kind of dark wizard guy, and you'll actually appreciate this. The character choice I made for my guy, like everyone thought he was like mean. Like people actually told me they had nightmares. You talk about having an experience.
Yeah.
People actually told me afterwards they were afraid to talk to me because I gave them nightmares. And I'm like, what? The character choice I made, I'm revealing this here for the first time, was I put my character on the spectrum. So it wasn't that he was mean. It was when you said something, like told a joke to him, he truly could not get it. And he would everything was director, flat out. No, that's not how it works. This is how we do this. But they were terrified of me. I also was the oldest character in it because I had been born a number of times, and I had all this dark magic that nobody knew what it did, including the one who ran it was like, go for it. Like they had a big battle. I walked right out in the middle of the battle. A guy started hitting me with a sword, and I just put my hands up and I said, not today. And he was like, you're not dying. I'm like, no, dark magic. You would have loved it, man. You would have loved it. So I get this
magic,
whole,
homie.
Yep, I get the whole LARP thing. I love it. And it is a wonderful teaching tool. I remember everything because I had to create mini games within it. I could run those mini games right now.
Oh, part of it's like that running. I remember some LARPs. I learned how to walk on stilts because I'm like, I want to play a giant. I want to be a monster.
That's amazing.
So I learned how to walk on stilts. This is my poor mother. I remember at one point I came to her when I was 12. I'm like, Mom, I need you to buy me cotton balls and fire and kerosene. She goes, why? I want to teach myself to eat fire. And she's like, you're not doing that. And I go, if I was 15, I'm like, Mom, I need stilts. She goes, why do you need stilts? I'm like, I want to play like a giant and like walk around. And like, people are going to be hitting you. I'm like, yeah, it'll be sick. And she goes, I'm not buying that. So I turned 18. So I bought myself stilts.
Yeah, of course. Of course. You sound like my daughter, who is now 15. And yeah, I mean, this is her. And she's a professional actress. It's it's when so you analyze the things that we've had to buy and do, it's crazy. Well, but you know what? We got to support it, man.
Well, it's all about those memories, man. Like it's those like people tell like your face lit up like those like I got to tell you a LARP story. Everyone has those moments. They go, I got to tell you this. My brief one about stilts is that first event stilts. I'm playing a demon lord. I'm in the woods like as a thing, and I'm trying to meet the evil players because they were doing an evil ritual. And one of my very good friends comes over picking flowers, little plastic flowers, and he looks down at the stilts, looks up at me. I'm wearing like this demonic mask, and I look down and he goes, huh? And I go, you're in the wrong neighborhood. And he goes, I'm in the wrong neighborhood. You have a nice day, sir. And but it's those like little connections, right? Because LARPing as an inherent thing is innately silly, right? And I think that's a thing that a lot of LARPers need to tell themselves sometimes. Like, it's inherently a silly sport, like where this is a foam sword and I'm hitting you with it.
You're playing.
I do a lot of you're playing, and adults allowing themselves to play is super important. I do what's called SCA right now, Society for Creative Activism. So I fight with like rattan and like full armor and stuff now because I love the fighting. But I also still go to these LARPs because it's, role playing, and that's a bunch of fun. This concept of play we kind of lost as like people, but like for me, I never really did. I remember there was a song by Abney Park. It's like a really cool goth band that became a really cool steampunk band. And there was a song they sang that they were going like, never stop playing, never stop dreaming. And I go, yeah, that's legit. That's
it right there.
People should strike. It hits the heart, right? So I get back to doing this LARP, and I meet my friend Rick, who I'm sure will be on at some point.
Rick's going to be on here for sure.
And I ran a plot for him because I remember he was not doing much. He was like GMing, and I go, hey, has anyone run a plot for you yet? And he goes, no. And I go, well, so I showed up as like Father Time, and I did a whole plot with him. And he came to me afterwards, and he was this really cool writer guy, and he goes, would you want to write stuff? And I go, sure. Eventually was like, I've never thought about this, but I ended up getting into a role-playing game book, and it was called The Red Opera. It was the prequel to the Black
actually,
Ballad.
I had Rick on a different show interviewing him about Red Opera. And what an amazing piece of work. And Rick wrote the bulk of that. It's amazing.
He did. I wrote one section about like I love like cosmic horror, H.P. Lovecraft, Robert W. Chambers. So I wrote a plot based on The King in Yellow, which I love. Which is not Lovecraft. It's Chambers, right?
Right. Really cool though.
Yeah, and so instead of The King in Yellow was The Stranger in Tatters. And I wrote this neat little plot line, and Rick really liked it. And so he said, cool. And I go, awesome. Do people like it? And he goes, yeah. Do you want to do another project? And it was the coolest feeling to open up a role-playing game book and go, hey, that's my name. That's so cool. Wild feel. It's like surreal. But eventually then I started, writing my own game. Eventually I'm going to have a game coming out through Storytellers Forge, which is doing a Black Ballad called Modern Gods, about gods living today. And first time I wrote it uses Powered by the Apocalypse. During the COVID years, I wanted to run something. And so through Extra Life, the charity company, I said, I want to run a LARP for charity. And so I ran Modern Gods, and I wrote everyone characters in the system, and they were in Boston, and they were all in different factions, and we used Discord. And the way it worked is you would click on the room, and this was let's say this was the Garden. This was Red Sox Stadium, and you would click on the location, and if you went to the chat room, you were there in the city. And we had 4 GMs running around running plots for people, letting the players discuss with each other what happened. And so we ended up getting I think we raised that year $3,000 for charity. The next year we raised $5,000 for charity. Then we raised $6,000 for charity the next year, which was really cool to just run this. And I had all these GMs with me, and we all were like collaborating together, writing this story. And that also felt great, felt really good, right? Because definitely running a game for charity is important. Running a game with people is even cooler. Granted, writers' meetings in anything are like people like, no, this is the way we should do it. No, you're wrong. This is the way we should do it. One of my closest friends and I remember we were having like this like butting head match about it, because that's how like writing worked. We both cared so much, and the other GMs were like, oh, mommy and daddy are fighting again. Okay, let's let them talk about it. But everyone leaves as a friend, and we put on a game that I think people enjoyed. And then eventually later, where I am now, is I started doing a lot of stuff for, I'm hopefully, fingers crossed, starting a PhD in game-based learning, learning sciences, educational psychology. And a lot of the way I teach is using role-playing games. So I teach mythology through that game, Modern Gods. Yeah, and amazing. That is such a very cool thing, because these kids, it's a senior class, and they'll go, oh, I get it. Oh, I'm connected. They talk about Ra, and they go, no, we met Ra, and we can tell you about him.
Right.
You have to write papers.
It's experiential learning, and it absolutely sticks in a different way. Does it work for every single person? No, but it works for a hell of a lot of them.
Works for, so half these kids, I teach at a small school, and 6 kids in the class. And so 3 of them never played role-playing games before. 3 of them have. And the ones who hadn't were also like, this is cool. I'm learning stuff. But I would make them write papers. And the paper grade they got corresponded to what power they got. So they got an A, they got a really good power.
Oh.
And I allow unlimited retakes and redos. So you'll have kids get a B and go, can I rewrite the paper? I want an A.
Yeah, they want that power.
They want that power, and they get it. I work with people who do LARP for kids with autism to teach them perspective taking. So
I love it.
Your way. So we need to work together. And so for me as an educator, I find it very important to look at games in this regard. And I think gaming really has so much untapped potential because the Oregon Trail was a thing, but didn't actually do much for the educational market. Can you find these people who are inventing these crazy, crazy games? And that's such a cool thing for me. I don't want to blow all the time on talking about how cool games for education are, but it's
no, but I have a feeling we might actually have to have another podcast just about that.
Because I love it. That
I love it. Actually, I'm going to tell you there is another podcast that I'm planning to launch. I have not made it public yet, but this absolutely, when I launch it, you will be a guest on. Just know you are now in the hopper to be on one, and we're going to get real deep on this because you're going to love it. You're going to love it. Once you're in,
you can't get out.
That's right. So talk to me about Black Ballad a little bit, your perspective, because you're writing on it. What kind of stuff are you doing for it? You said you're writing the gods?
Yeah. So there's a whole bunch of stuff to do on Black Ballad. And honestly, it's cool to be a part of such a really talented cast. Being honest, sometimes you definitely get imposter syndrome. Like, you sit there and you're just like, why am I in this meeting? You get it. And it's a really weird feeling sometimes, especially, for me, it's wild to be there. But I get to write, I wrote a couple gods. And what I did was I also worked with some people who, there's a project that shall remain nameless for now that was not great, that there was a drama. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, okay. Yep. Got it. But there are people who donate quite a bit. And so Rick ended up getting these people gods in this game universe. So I worked with them a lot of the time to be like, hey, here's some stuff about the plot, and making these gods fit into the world and all that. Also, I get calls from Rick, and Rick will confirm this at like 3 a.m. and be like, hey, you want to talk about the game? And I'm like, sure, let's have a conversation about the game. I got nothing better to do. And so I'll also be like a sounding board, and honestly, sharing ideas with people and being in these meetings is a lot of what I do on the Black Ballad. So 2 of the gods in there are kind of my babies, and I spent a lot of time in them. I really hope people like them.
Fantastic. All right. So here's the deal. We are going to put links in the show notes to all of this, okay, to all your social media, wherever people could reach you when they want to hire you as a magician, want to work with you on LARPs, want to play games with you.
I do Comic-Con magic too. Anime convention magic. It's fantastic.
Yes, excellent. And I'm going to put a link in there, and people that listen to the show are going to get tired of hearing this month. I don't care, because it matters. I'm going to put links to the Black Ballad, because Black Ballad is what I'm featuring in month 1 of this show. And the links will go to the Kickstarter for it. This Kickstarter is what's going to fuel this really interesting experiment. So not only is it the game, but if this works, it's launching a company that has a vision that is awesome. It's got incredible creatives behind it, like Michael. And it's very, and I gotta say, it's very creator focused. And that's the thing. Rick is very much of I want to empower people. Like, Rick's my friend, but no, he is that. And honestly, it's such a cool thing that he created, and I'm just honored to be a part of it, to be honest. Yeah, it's super cool. So all the links will go in the show notes. There are people that are auditory learners too. So where do you want to send them to connect with you? Yeah, so the 2 best places to find me, Twitter is at Magic Michael Oldziej, Magic MAGIC, Michael MSCHAEL, OJ just O and J. It's actually how I pronounce my last name, but it's Polish and weird. So, and then you can find me on Facebook, Michael Oldziej, same thing, magician, and you can find me there. Great. And like I said, I'll put those links in the show notes. Definitely reach out if you have questions about writing, if you have questions about LARPing or magic, or just want to gaming and education, reach out to Michael. He has a lot to say, and I'm definitely going to have him on other podcasts. So watch our stuff to see where he pops up next. Michael, thank you so much for joining me on this. Thank you. And good luck with Black Ballad. It deserves to rock the world. It's going to be awesome. It's such a cool world. It's clerics, yo. Who doesn't love clerics?
The answer is most people. We're going to make them really cool.
No, you're going to change that. You're going to change that. Yeah. Who doesn't
They
love
ain't healers? They're a lot of stuff.
Who doesn't love bringing dead characters back to life? Oh, spoiler. Oh,
I don't think it's spoiler. It's on the box.
I know it's on the box. What do you?
When your campaign ends, like, all right, well.
Yeah, right. All right. Well, thanks again, Michael. We will talk again in the future.
I would love to. Thank you.
Thank you again, Mike, for coming on and having such an awesome conversation. If you or anyone you know has a crowdfunding effort or is involved in the making of a tabletop game, send them my way. I love to share TTRPG projects with my listeners and to help people reach their goals. You can connect with me through the TTRPG Insider Facebook page, through Twitter, or via email directly to rob@ttrpginsider.com. You can find a link to this backer kit for the Black Ballad and any other links that we discussed in the show notes. TTRPG Insider is a production of Southgate Media Group, hosted, edited, and produced by me, Rob Southgate. Thanks again for listening to the TTRPG Insider.